Good evening. Hi, everybody. Hi. Hi, lovely people at home. You might be at home, you might be on the tube. Welcome to this wonderful masterclass that we're hosting with Maldon. We're showcasing the new merchant salt range, which is just fantastic. We're going to show you how to use it. We've got wonderful, amazing Lisa Goodwin-Allen here. And Lisa's going to be running us through 3 recipes that we have had some samples of already that I can tell you are amazing. So at home, if you want to learn how to use these wonderful salts and also learn some new chefy techniques that you can replicate at home, this is going to be so useful for you. We've got a live audience who are amazing and they are very good. So I'm happy. And if you have any questions you want to engage or ask as you go, please send them in. We've got an iPad so I can see them and we'll get to you at the end. So let's begin. The first dish, Lisa, would you like to introduce the first dish and talk about it?
Yeah, so we're going to do a warm cured salmon with some like quite classic flavours really. So cucumber and some champagne. So the interesting thing about it is we're talking about these wonderful salts. You know, there's 2 different salts. And we were speaking earlier about the fact of, does anyone ever like get a salt and just taste it and see, okay, what's the characteristics of this salt? Or do they just like kind of chuck it into a pan? So when actually tasting the difference between the 2 salts, ones are like a lot harsher, but it's still got this kind of nice mellow flavour to it. And one of them, like we were talking about earlier, Rav, that you know you could see is quite suited to desserts, that kind of thing. Because almost if you can imagine like zesty, that kind of thing. And salts have got fabulous flavours, and it's how you can use those to bring out some like great flavours in the ingredients that you're using, which I think is really interesting. I love that about food. So I've got a lovely kind of salmon loin here, and in this pestle and mortar here, I've got some sugar. I'm going to use the Himalayan one for this one. And we tasted it earlier, didn't we? And it's quite strong.
Round, actually, it's for everyone to look at. We're going to pass some of the Himalayan salt round.
And we put a little bit of lemon zest in there. So we've got sugar, the Himalayan salt, and again, I've put fennel and a little bit of coriander seed in here. And I think that kind of really complements the salt, but again, will complement the fish. Because what we want to do is use the salt to actually pull the flavours out of the fish. So we're going to cure it, a warm cure. Okay, so pestle and mortar all together, so it's nice and fine. So you're starting to get those kind of flavours of the seeds activating into the salt.
Lisa, can you explain the difference quickly between a warm cure and a non-warm cure for people who don't know? So
a warm cure is where your salmon is cured, but not cured too much. So when you put it in the oven, it'll be salty. So it's just about managing the time that you put it on for. A gravel axe is a full cure. So this recipe, you could just leave it on longer and you could eat it raw, or you can do it for however long we're going to do it for and actually just warm it up, which I'll explain to you about how we warm it up and stuff. So we've got all this lovely salt there, and we get some clean film, or you can just pop it in a little container, and what you're going to do is just put the cure onto the fish. All right. So a lot of people will just pour it on. What you want to do is just lightly rub it, not too hard so it doesn't kind of damage the flesh of the fish, but so it starts penetrating into the fish. So what we do is we cure it, and we're going to leave it for about 30 minutes, okay, 30 to 35 minutes. So it obviously depends on the thickness of your fish. Every recipe will be something different, whether it's the ingredients a bit riper, the thickness of the fish is a bit thicker, or you're doing a larger quantity at once. So what I say to my chefs is always important is once you think it's ready, is take a little slice off the end, wash it off and just try it. Because what you want to do is you want to get that flavour into the fish so you can actually get that seasoning on the outside so you're not adding any more to it. Okay? So
would this work with, this cure in particular is designed for this salmon, but could people use it for a different type of fish?
Yeah, of course you do. You could do, you know, any kind of firm fish is great for salting. You know, we salt cod. You can also do kind of like a liquid brine that we're going to show you with the lamb belly as well. And you can do any flavour you want. So I've kind of put, you know, the fennel and the coriander in there because I want that kind of flavour to run through.
And you're all smelling it now, right? It smells great.
Yeah, it comes through. You know, and I think it really complements the salmon. But equally, if you wanted to do a different dish that was a little bit spicy, you know, you can add fresh herbs to it, muddle them up. You know, the stalks are great because that's where your flavour is. Put them in there. You can use a spice in there. You can do anything you want. So this is kind of the recipes that I've done. You can take these flavours and omit them and put something different into them. You know, you can use a different salt if you wanted to. And also with these salts, then I think they're really good for brining or curing or something like that, because they have to be ground. You can't, like the other Maldon, you season things with it because the flakes are so lovely and they break down very quickly. Whether these don't, because they're more like of a texture of a rock salt. So it's important to either use it as a liquid or a grind or smash it down, or, you know, different ones that you've got really. Okay, so then what we're going to do with that is we're going to basically cure it. So we would cure it for about, I would say, in between 30 to 40 minutes. Again, try it. So that's like that. What we're going to do is turn this board over and I'm going to show you one that's already cured and
Lisa
cooked.
was very organised, which is why we love her, and made some of this the night before.
That's it, yeah.
At the restaurant.
And this is the beauty about it. You know, you can, when you're warming stuff up, you're changing the texture of it with the fish as well. So once you've got that, you wash it off and then you wrap it again in cling film, or you could stick it into a water bath.
So 30 to 40 minutes like this?
Yeah, 30 to 40 minutes like that. And then what you're going to do is wash it off, check it, and then you can either wrap it back in cling film, you could take it into a water bath, you could put it in a little steamer at home at 38 degrees. There's different ways you could do it. And basically you're going to cook it for 30 minutes. So it kind of, once you cooked it at 30 minutes, it's kind of like ready to go. So you see the colour of it there looks raw. But when I kind of break it down, it's cooked. Okay, so it's like breaking down. So what we're going to do is just cut it into like nice pieces. So I'm going to do a couple pieces there. And again, to warm it back up, you can either put it back into the steamer, which I'm going to do at like 30 degrees. You could pop it into a little bit of oil. So if you're at home, you could just have a little bath, a pan of oil, and just quickly heat it up and then pull it off so it stays quite kind of lukewarm, and then just drop it into there. And I think, you know, it has a lovely, lovely kind of texture. But equally, like I said before, you can leave the salt on longer and use it as a gravel axe, wash it off, put a little bit of mustard on it, chop some herbs around it, leave it in your fridge, and, you know, you got a dinner party, you got something different again. You know, there's lots of different things, and I think this is the thing about recipes, and when people give ideas of what you can do and what you got at home, ultimately this is a recipe. You will put your spin on it of what you want to kind of achieve with it.
So once it's been cured, how long does that keep for?
Once it's been cured and cooked, we'll keep it. So at the minute, this is kind of on our lunch menu at Northcote, and we'll cook it the day before, so it's like that, and then we'll have our bath of oil on the side at service. When one gets cold and order, we put it in. You can keep that for a couple of days. You know, you cure it more, you can keep it for 3 or 4 days, and that's the thing. And again, it'll be your preference of kind of texture of what you want there, really.
Okay, lovely.
Okay, just before I put them in, so we've got some diced cucumber and a little bit of diced gherkin. Sometimes we'll like kind of make our own gherkin and stuff like that, but they're just nice as the pickle aspect because it catches, stuff's quite rich. In this pan here, we're going to make a champagne sauce. And I love that kind of the fact of that we're making like a nice creamy kind of champagne sauce to go with it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to chop some shallots down. So shallots are kind of the base of it. This is the thickness of it. So it's important when we put them in that we cook them down. So you want to kind of slice them as thin as possible so they break down. And they also cook evenly. Because again, when we blend it up, that's kind of what thickens your sauce. So in this we're going to put a little pan. So Rab's going to put a little bit of olive oil in there.
I am.
I think she's on it.
I said I'm not chopping because we'll be here all day. Pastry chef, you know.
So we've got a little bit of oil in there, and then we're going to put the onions in. Okay.
I think that's it.
That's
that one.
That's it. So the importance of a sauce, basically. A lot of people will put onions in, they'll sweat them down. You kind of want to do it really slowly, or use some cling film or a lid to break them down because they want to steam, so they stay nice and no colour on them. Because sometimes, especially onions at this time of year, because they're quite sweet, they'll colour before they break down. And if they don't break down enough, they won't thicken your sauce. And they've got that lovely sweetness as well, and that's what brings a good sauce together, is that sweetness. You know, and then you put the alcohol in there, and then we've got like kind of a lovely fish stock. So we just set them down.
So the tip and the trick of onions is low and slow.
Low and slow. Low and slow under a lid.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to sweat them down here. And then we've got some butter, some fish stock, some champagne, and we've got some creme fraiche. So I was saying earlier that I kind of omit cream out of quite a lot of stuff because cream's quite fatty. And when you're having something on your palate, it kind of leaves a little bit of mask onto your palate. So I want the flavours of the ingredients when I'm spending time making a lovely stock and I'm putting some champagne in there. I want them to really sink. And it's obviously a starter as well, so I want those elegant flavours to come through.
So you're using creme fraiche over double cream in this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it just gives that kind of like nice kind of richness to it. So like a normal kind of beurre blanc sauce, once you've got your onions broken down, so at this point you could use onions if you wanted to do a little aromats or anything like that, break some parsley stalks, you can do whatever you want, pop it in there. So then we add some alcohol, okay? It's always important to hear that hiss when you're putting it in because you want it to reduce. Some people, what they'll do is they'll put this in, they'll give it a couple of minutes and then they'll start adding the stock in. And then you end up with kind of a winey, sipid flavour into your sauce, and you want the characteristics of the champagne or your wine to come through, not to be like kind of acidity in the back of it. So the always way that I say to people in the kitchen is we want the alcohol to start hugging the ingredients that are inside. So when it starts to go a little bit syrupy and it starts to hug those ingredients inside, that's when we're going to put the stock in. Okay, so we're using it as a flavour to enhance and not as a flavour for it to, you know, give us that kind of taste at the back end of it. So what I'm going to do here is I've got the steamer on, so I'm just going to pop a little bit of oil onto that and then just pop it into the.
And at home, if people don't want to steam it, they can just pan fry.
Yeah, they can just heat it up. They can put it in a little, if you can makeshift a little steamer, so a pan of water, a little bamboo steamer, or a colander on the top with an upturned saucer on it and a lid on the top. You know, there's endless amounts of things that you can do to makeshift like different things at home.
So how long would that take now?
We say kind of like 15 minutes if it was kind of like a fridge cold.
Okay.
So we're just going to pop that in until kind of we're ready to go. So I'm going to turn the heat up here because I want it to kind of like really zap down now. So important thing is you know, stand over it, watch it, look after it, because you turn your back, you come back, it's like, ooh, it's gone a bit too far. And when it's gone a bit too far, there's no bringing it back. You know, you'll end up with, you've got one fine line, and that's the perfect thing. Not enough, you get that kind of winey. Too much, it's like syrup acid. So
Lisa,
it's really important.
You're going to use fish stock in this.
Yes.
Because I know fish stock is not the easiest to get hold of, and if it is, it's not always the best quality.
Yeah.
What do you advise people at home to do if they don't want to make fish stock? Where can they get the best fish stock from?
I think a lot of the supermarkets now are having like little pouches of stocks that you can buy.
So
you know,
fresh stock.
Yeah, fresh stock. Equally, you know, some of the kind of the bouillons and stuff are quite good to do. You just want to be careful on your ratio. Again, I think it's always important as a chef, you should always taste everything. Taste the salt, taste the ingredients that you're using in it, because you'll know yourself, every palate's different. Some people like a little bit more acidity, some people like a little bit more sweetness. You know, you are in charge of kind of like your own sauce really, of what you kind of want to put up. So you see now like kind of that alcohol's disappeared in there. All right, so then what we're going to do is put the stock in.
If at any point you want to come and have a little peer, I think you can come and poke your head over if you're super interested, by the way. I won't push you back.
If don't come, they're not interested.
Because you can't see that, right? But if you want to, you can come and have a little look. Especially chefs in the front. Come and have a look.
Come and join in the fun.
I'll move this pan of water, just so you can get a good idea of this.
When you put the stock in now, you've obviously got the flavour in the base there. We just want to bring it up to the boil. Once we boil up to the boil, we're going to add a little bit of butter in there.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. And your creme fraiche in there. Bring it back up to the boil. And then we're just going to blend it. So we used to put it into like a Thermomix or anything like that, just to blend it together to make it really nice. Again, we can season it with a little bit of squeeze of lemon juice, a little bit of salt in the back of it.
So how long would this take now?
That is probably ready to go.
Okay.
So it literally doesn't take time at all, really. So that one's pretty much good to go. And then my fish here, you can see that it's warming through nicely. So it'll just be about ready to go when we're ready there. Okay. So I've got a little bit of sauce here that I've made, so I've put it into the blender. I was being nice not to blow everybody's eardrums. So Ben's going to blitz it up.
Max, are you happy to blend that?
And then we'll go back to kind of
here. But what people would do at home is they would now blend this, taste it, blend it.
Yeah, that's it.
Heat it up again.
Yeah.
And then now stick blend.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can keep this sauce in your fridge as well. You just heat it, but when you're bringing it back, just be very careful with it because it has got kind of like, you know, your creme fraiche and stuff. So just on a very low heat and just kind of bring it back because that's what we do. Is we prepare sauces in our own kitchens when we're doing it.
So you don't make this for every service. You would have some ready.
Yeah, you can have some ready. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So here we've got our kind of plate. So we'll put that to one side.
Smell good? The smell?
So what I've got here is a little bit of cucumber and the diced gherkin. So I've just kind of evenly diced it up. And then in 2 bottles here, like I haven't put this one on the recipe, so I'm giving you a little secret.
But we're going to talk about the secret because it's so good.
She likes the secret.
I really like the secret.
So what we've done is we made like a dill oil. Okay, so dill oil is we've picked all the fresh parts of the dill off the top, and then we kind of blend it up into the Thermomix. And if you put them on like about 60-70 degrees for about 6 minutes, what it does, it emulsifies all that lovely dill into the oil. You want to use neutral oil, so something like sunflower oil or vegetable oil or something like that, so it's quite neutral in flavour. And what we say is like 1 part picked herbs to like 2 parts oil, then blitz it up and then you hang it in a cloth. When you get this super lovely clean flavour of oil, and it's great that, you know, we can use this. And it's great also like if you've got some things going at home and stuff like that, you want to blend them up and make oils because you can use them as dressings. You can make little pestos out of them. You don't have to hang it. You can leave the bits in it. You know, again, it's up to you.
How long does that keep if you make a herb oil?
So the ticket with this is we make quite big batches of it at once. And then what we do is we put them, you can either do it at home in like a little ice cube tray or something, or you can do it, and we do it in like little pouches, and we do 50 to 200 grams at a time, and then we put them in the freezer, because when they go into the freezer, green oils keep perfectly. Because they're at that temperature where if you leave something in the fridge too long, its flavour starts to deteriorate. So we keep things in smaller pouches in the fridge so it keeps as much flavour as possible, because that's what we're trying to do, is get as much flavour of all these ingredients.
So once it's been in the freezer, you would put it in something like a Ziploc at home,
that's
and
it,
then
yeah.
just defrost it,
Just
and it's good for about
defrost it,
3
yeah.
days?
Yeah. I mean, you can keep them in the freezer for as long as you want. They're
Okay.
not going anywhere once they're in the freezer. So you see I've got like kind of nice warm salmon there. So in here we've got this lovely oil that we're just going to mix into a little bit of the diced cucumber and stuff. So this one here, you're probably all wondering what it is. Right, okay, so in the kitchen with us, we try and not waste anything as much as possible. So we're always looking at these products. Now a lot of people will pick this off like this, and they would either chuck them in the bin or break them up, put them in a stock or something like that. These have got a huge amount of flavour, and probably, if not more, than its actual leaf. So what we do is we take a natural oil, we break up the stalks and we put them into the oil. You can either vac pack it and then steam it at like 60 degrees for like 3 or 4 hours, or you can just bring it up slightly in a pan and leave it on the side overnight. So all this lovely flavour, because when you break something, you can see that you get more flavour from it, and let it just sit there, and you end up with this pure dill oil, but it's white. Okay, so you're actually taking another oil, so then you can use the oil.
So it doesn't get colour?
No, it doesn't get colour, it's just white, because it's an infusion. So any bacon trimmings and stuff like that we've got off the side, we roast it off, and we put it into oil and we leave it to infuse. So then what we've done is you let the oil go cold, and then what we do is we make a boiled egg. So we do a 5-minute boiled egg, or 4.5-minute boiled egg, boiling pan of water, timer on, and then once it's cooked, plunge it into ice water, and it goes cold. Once it's cold, pop it into a blender, and it's quite, it's still not as cooked, so it's quite loose. What you do is start it blending it starts to emulsify, okay, and go smooth. And what you do is you just pour your oil in, and you end up with a mayonnaise.
It's so delicious.
So when you're eating it,
we're gonna pass
mayonnaise.
it around to try it once you've used it, if that's okay.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
so good.
If you want some later though, don't have it all. Leave me at least 3 squeezes. Okay, so I'm just going to put
But you can do that with dill.
anything you want, anything,
Okay.
any oil, chili oil, whatever you want. So yeah, if you want to pass that around, that's perfect.
So do a little bit on the back of your hand and try it, because it's so silky.
Okay, so we just give this a mix around here, and we've got the dill oil, and you know, we put a good amount of that mayonnaise on the top there, some nice of the dill oil and the cucumber.
Thanks, Max.
And then we've got this lovely fish here that we pop on top. So you see there. And again, you can see.
Do you like it?
You see, like the flavours we've got.
Isn't it?
You know, you got salmon, you got cucumber, and you got dill and some champagne. So there's not, you know, you're keeping your elements restricted. Now we're going to do is put that.
You would have this warm on the side.
That's it, yeah.
Lovely.
This warm on the side, and we just spoon a nice amount of the sauce around like that.
Ooh.
Okay.
Beautiful.
And then we just garnish it with some kind of lovely herbs on there as well, like so. And that's it.
Beautiful. So this is our very first dish. It's the warm cured salmon. I'm going to slide it to the front so you can come and have a look. And then when we go to the Q&A, Lisa's going to very kindly make a couple more for everybody to come and try.
If you're nice to me, yeah.
But come and have a look. Come and have a look. Please come and have a look. And this is showcasing the Himalayan pink salt.
Yes.
Gorgeous, isn't it? Thank you. Okay. Alrighty, so now we're going to move on to the lamb. Before we do, whilst we get set up, I actually thought it'd be really interesting to talk to Lisa about the chef world, because we were talking off camera about it, and I wanted to talk about the people that are coming up in your kitchen, because you really believe in training people.
Yes.
And
yeah.
like, what are you seeing talent-wise? Who's walking through your door? Where are they going? Let's talk about that journey.
I think it's, we run an apprenticeship scheme at Northcote where we get kind of people from different ages really, from like 16-year-olds, sometimes gone into a career and come back in at 21 or a little bit older. So what they're doing is like kind of an in-house, so rather than like going to college, they would come and they would do 5 days a week with us and they would get their qualification at the same time.
What age are they roughly? Like?
They'll start off anywhere from 16, 17. Some of them can be, we've got a 21-year-old at the minute, we've got an 18-year-old that came from us when he was 16. So he's just about to finish his kind of level 3. And it's a real joy to see, you know, when someone's passionate and hungry about what they do, you know, to really kind of teach them and nurture them to kind of progress and give them that advice. I think is really, really powerful. And also, you know, now we need to be training our own to keep this amazing, you know, industry going. So yeah, we very much put a focus on that, and we've got some lads that have been with us for quite a while as well. So Danny, who's my head chef, he was with us for 10 years and he's moved on now. So it's great to see him move into his own thing of being a head chef. So you know, it's massively important, I think, to really kind of train people. I love that, and I love to discover new things with food, or you know, different ingredients and stuff like that, and to learn about it as a team is really important, because you want to infuse someone. You've got a happy chef that's learning lots and happy at what they're doing, they'll give you their utmost. And I think that's really important to pull that through within your food as well, you know, making amazing flavours and amazing dishes.
And we've got 6 chefs here who I hope are very enthusiastic and brilliant, and you love it. You seem quite young as well. So now, Lisa, do you want to introduce the next dish and talk a bit about it, and then we'll...
Yeah, absolutely. So this next dish, we're going to do something a little bit different. Again, it's kind of that slow cooking process, and I think, you know, using a meat that's kind of not used a lot, I think the undercuts are really delicious. And we're going to celebrate this other salt in this one. So we're going to use a lamb belly. So we're going to do like a Harissa spiced lamb belly with some like pomegranates, whipped feta, that kind of thing. All those flavours that are quite salivating. The thing about this is you could do it as a starter. You could actually use this cut of meat as another element for a main dish. You know, there's different things that you could do with it. So with the first dish, we used the Himalayan salt, and that was kind of like this dry cure that we rubbed on top of it. So now we're going to make a brine, okay? Brines are something that kind of tenderizes things at the same time, but it can actually penetrate and flavour the ingredient while it's brining. And again, because it's kind of that rock salty, it's really good to go in there. And I think, you know, when you taste this and you think about what would work well with it, it's quite got a nice little bit of acidity to it. And I think when you add in stuff like, you know, harissa and spice and stuff like that, it would work quite well. So in here, when we're brining stuff, we tend to work on like a 10% salt in water. So brining it is a water that you add salt into, you bring it to the boil, and then you've got to dissolve the salt into it. okay? Because if you don't dissolve the salt into it, it won't penetrate into the water. And then you've got to cool it. So once you've boiled it, quickly take it off, whisk it to make sure all that salt is dissolved in it. At this point, if you wanted to put a different flavour into it as well, you could use water, 10% salt to your water weight, and then you can smash some garlic, you can put some spice, you can tear up some rosemary, you can put some dill stalks in, you can do anything you want. So you can use a wet cure as well for fish. I just wanted to kind of show you the two techniques celebrating these amazing salts.
And as you notice, so if you're trying some of the salts now, the pink salt was stronger than the Kalahari one, which is actually a lot milder.
Yes, it is a lot milder, yeah.
But you wouldn't know unless you just taste the salt.
This is it, and you know, that's the importance of tasting, and then you'll discover it yourself. I mean, even like with brining, you know, putting a bit of sugar in there as well pulls the different characteristics out, because I think when we're using products like this, you can really link into an ingredient that can enhance the flavour of what you're using. You don't want it to overpower it, you want it to complement it, you want it to pull it, and brining's what it's doing, it's pulling flavour. Okay, so if you want to put aromats and stuff in it, you could do. What you've got to do is once you've dissolved the salt, you've got to cool it down, so it's got to be ice cold. Leave it in your fridge, let it go completely cold. And then what I've got here is a lamb belly. Okay, so it's a boned out lamb belly. You can bone it yourself, you can get a butcher to do it, but I think it's a really nice cut. You want to look to make sure you've got a good curvature of fat in there, not too fatty, so the quality of it is good. And then basically what we do is we just plunge it into the liquid. You leave it to brine. That's it, yeah. So cold in there, you leave it for a couple of hours, okay? Probably about that, it would be 2 hours, okay? Again, you can do chickens in it, 2 hours, whole chickens, it's great. Put it on your table, getting an infusion of flavour through. If you want a garlic chicken, you want that garlic to come through, you just put garlic in that, bring it into the boil, goes into your water, put your chicken into it. So there's different things you can do, and this will be amazing with that. It's like, you know, like really kind of garlic, lemon, aromat, stuff like that is really good.
So you would brine it for the 2 hours?
Yeah, brine it for the 2 hours.
In the water.
That's it. Take it out, pat it dry. Okay, the process that I've shown you there is you take the lamb belly, and that's half. You could do 2 lamb bellies. And basically put it in together in half so it meets kind of the same size. Wrap it in cling film, and then we vacuum pack it and we steam it about 85 degrees. Or if you didn't have a vacuum packer, you could equally, you know, the old comfy, you can pop it into some water and do it again at like into some oil and do it 85 degrees, and it just cooks it really, really slowly. It takes about 8 hours to cook. All right, and
at
it
what
just breaks
temperature
down.
at home would you put your oven on to?
You probably want to be around about 85, 90
and you'd
degrees.
put a big, like a...
Yeah, just like a pan of, you know, if you got this, you can put oil in there, just heat it up. If you've got a little bit of a temperature probe, just check kind of, you obviously don't want to boil your oil and then put it in. And then pop it in and then just into your oven.
Would you cover that in the, if you're doing it that
cover
way?
it in the oil, yeah, I'll cover it. It's like kind of that old classic technique of comfying really. And also remember, you know, when you put it into oil, the oil will rise because of the fat will come out into your liquid. And you can see that kind of, it makes it a little bit, but I think it's a lovely way of cooking. So this one here we've got, so basically what we did is we brined it, we pat it dry, we clean foamed it, we vacuum packed it and we steamed it 85 degrees for about 8 hours. Okay, and then we take it out and we leave it in the vacuum, we leave it to cool, go solid. Okay, and what you'll do is you'll take it out of the vacuum and you'll see all this jelly and the juices around it and stuff. That's really nice to kind of glaze the meat back up in if you wanted to. But then you end up with something like this. So a cube. Okay, this when you've cooked like this and stuff, it will keep for 3 or 4 days in the fridge. Again, you can use it as like a main dish, which we're going to do, or you can actually use it as a side to go. So you could do a loin of lamb and a little belly on the side. But I think it's just really delicious, and hopefully when you try it you'll agree. If not, I don't think I've done my job properly. You say it was good.
They're going to try it at the end off camera, so you know it's kind of fine if you don't like it. You're going to love it.
I had to pay a lot of money earlier.
The lamb. It's so tasty.
So
even cold, it's fantastic.
It is, yeah. You know, and just to put it in salads, to put it in a little bit of oil and crisp it up and make it really crispy. It's quite delicious. So then, what you do is you just cut a portion from it. Okay, so like so. So you can see that, you know, you can get your portions out of it. It's good as a yield. It's shaped nicely. So then what we're going to do is just do this lovely kind of slab of it there. So Rab's on duty here.
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm nervous. I'm cooking it in this one, right?
That's it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crisp it up. You don't have to, you can just pop it in back in an oven and just warm it up if you wanted, but I think crispy and then glazed with a little bit of sauce, it's really delicious. So she's going to pop,
neutral oil.
That's it, yeah, a little bit of sunflower oil in there. Right, this you've got to be careful because it will pop because there's quite a bit of fat in it. All right, so she's going to heat it up till the oil starts going. So if you're ever sealing anything, you want it to be hot when it goes into here, the sizzle, because you want it to crisp and not to absorb fat. You want it to use it to be crispy. Okay, so in this pan here next to me, I'm going to make a quick lamb sauce, okay, with harissa in it.
Do you want this done now?
That's it, yeah. So she's going to pop it in. You can hear that sizzle on it now. In this pan here, we put a little bit of kind of neutral oil again. So this is kind of like a basic lamb sauce. We've got onions here, nice and finely sliced.
Took me about an hour. I was at the home ec yesterday, and Lisa very kindly has bought things like the lamb belly done, because I didn't have a backpack at home, so I'm also learning today how to do it at home.
That's it, that's it. So while my onions are in, I'll put garlic in, right? A lot of people, and some of the younger chefs will go, I'll have a clove of garlic and I'll pop it in, right? What you want to do is anything you do, whether it's a herb you're putting in a pan or you're putting a clove of garlic or anything like that, smash it, yeah? You're releasing flavour, yeah? Anything you do, you've got to think about flavour. How can I get as much flavour as possible into this sauce if you're using it in there? So I'll smash the back of it, tear it, do anything. Release as much as you can. So in there as well, I've got some thyme. I'm going to pull that there and pop it in. You can smell it already starting to come together. You smell the garlic, you smell the thyme, and that's when you know kind of it's releasing. I've got some lamb stock here. I think, you know, we talked earlier about that you can kind of buy the lamb stock and stuff like that.
How crispy do you want this?
That's it, probably just a little bit more. So it's getting a good crispy coloration on there. And then what you can do is paste it with a little bit of this sauce.
Now?
You can do, yeah.
Where do you get all your meat from at the restaurant?
We buy some locally. We cross the borders a little bit from Lancashire to Yorkshire. They've got good meat, so it's all right. We can go that far. You know, the old white rose and red rose fight sometimes. I have good mates over there, to be honest with you.
Do you want both sides painted?
That's it, yeah.
Both sides, yeah?
Yep. Actually, just do the one side. Yeah,
okay.
Just paint it up as much as you can down the sides. So we get from a place called R&J. So we're always searching to see where we can get the best quality we can buy. And, you know, and when you get someone that's as passionate as you, that's like rearing or producing things, you know, we use a lot of local suppliers. We use the Lake District farmers, use Olphams, use different people for different things.
Do you want this in the oven?
That's it. Yeah.
Like that?
Yep, perfect. So yeah, we source the best we can get, and that's why, you know, we pay real respect when we're trying to, you know, cook the ingredients and pair them with different things. So, lamb sauce, caramelise your onions off, and then you're going to pop in some kind of white wine. Again, you can hear it kind of sizzling down. We're using the same as we did with any sauce, is reduce it down to get it to hug around your ingredients. Okay.
And this glaze, can we talk quickly about the glaze?
Yes. Have you got that harissa on that tray there?
Yes.
Right, okay, so the glaze basically is lamb sauce. So we take the lamb sauce, and once we've got it to the correct consistency, we keep some in a pan at the side with our harissa in it. And then we take some of it and we reduce it down to make a glaze. So it's kind of like getting that sticky, crunchy, delicious kind of
do you mind if I pass this round?
texture on the side.
Have you
Yeah,
got to
go
look
for
at?
it, yeah.
So just have a little look at this glaze and smell it. Don't eat it, we need it.
Yeah, don't eat it all.
Because you'll get it in your taster when we make some fresh ones.
So that's kind of reduced down there. Going to pop in the lamb stock.
Is it the same principle with the onions in this?
Exactly, yeah.
So low and slow.
With this, yeah, but I've caramelised the onions
Okay.
here because I want more sweetness to come out into that lovely, lovely sauce. And then basically what we do is we put some harissa in there. And you kind of, what you would do is you were making a sauce, you want to reduce it down, taste it as you go. Kind of you would always say reduce it by half so it gets powerful in flavour. Pass out your ingredients and then reduce it so it's perfect, so it just coats the back of a spoon. All right, and then what we've done is we just put the harissa in there. So then basically we've got that we just kind of pass off. And we put it through a tammy cloth to make sure there's no bits in it. And then the glaze is the one that we just reduce down. Okay? So
and
that
this
kind
I'm
of like
heating up
ticks
again
away.
for you.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. Smell good in the room? Yes.
So with this one here, we've got something on the recipe you'll see. It's called whipped feta, and I think it's quite nice. I like to kind of play with like classical things that you would put together. So you think of like when you're eating like a Greek salad or something like that, you put olives in it and different things, chunks of feta and stuff like that. I think it's really nice to kind of, we've got something that's quite fatty and spicy, which is the lamb belly, and you want something that's a little bit of acidity that cuts that, and then the pops of freshness. So basically what we've done is we've taken feta, it's got a little bit of cream in there and a little bit of creme fraiche, and then we just blend it up. Okay, so you want a soft feta, so you're keeping that real fresh flavour, but you're always making like a puree with it. So it's great for different things. It's, you know, it's good to have in salads and stuff like that, and it, you know, keep it in a squeezer bottle in your fridge. But basically it's just all blended together, and you've got this kind of like acidic, cheesy, naughty, quite nice. You know what I mean? You can just see it, can't you? And then we've got some pomegranates, so they're in season, lovely pops and bursts of freshness, toasted almonds, which is a great kind of combination with it, and some fresh coriander that we're just going to get out.
So just a reminder, if you're at home, you can ask questions. All you need to do is write them in the comments, and we will get back to them at the end. Max is monitoring the questions, so we will remember to get back to you.
Okay.
So once you've put the glaze on the lamb from the pan, you're just getting it through the oven to
That's
get
it,
heat
yeah.
all the way through.
Yep.
Okay.
We've got the glaze back as someone stole
Yes,
it.
is the glaze here? Lovely.
If you did steal it, I would steal it, to be honest with you.
This glaze is such a nice texture, so I'll give you that back there.
That's it. So then what we're going to do is just give it a little bit of another glaze up there.
We'll go back in the oven.
That's it, now we're good to go. So you just want to kind of get it where you're putting it back in at 180, so it's just warming through, you know, it's warming the fat through. You're not cooking it, you're just warming it. And you want that lovely glaze to be quite, you know, prominent on there. So just give it another kind of glaze up as well after. All right, so we've got a plate here.
So would this be on the menu at the restaurant for like a starter or a main?
So we've got it actually as our lunch menu as a main course. So we do the lamb belly, we do whipped feta, and we do a cutlet. So we spice it with a little bit of Harissa Ravneet, that kind of thing, some coriander bits on the back of it, and then we do the spiced cutlet to go with it, and kind of a courgette that's slow cooked. And you can see kind of like all the ingredients that are kind of working together. So it's nice to take it whether you use it as a main ingredient or not. But we use the brining methods a lot, especially with the salts, because again we want to get that tenderness through. And we want to pull as much flavour as we can do as possible. And I think, you know, all the time we're looking for the best ingredients. You know, we're looking for the best meat that we can buy, the best vegetables we can buy. And equally, I think a good salt is important, because working with the characteristics is really, you know, a massive thing. And again, you know, try it. You might want to use it in different things, because we're actually going to use one of them in an ice cream next, which I think is
So
really good.
good.
It's one of my favourite.
Yes.
One of my favourites.
Yes. Terry's going to like that.
So basically we take the lamb belly, you can see that, so nice and
Do you need this sauce?
that's
hot?
it, yeah, perfect. So we got nice sticky kind of glazed up lamb belly there.
Thank you, Max.
And then what we're going to do is, you know, it's kind of artistic license, isn't it, really? You can do kind of whatever plating you want, but I think it's quite nice to put the pomegranates on the top. And then we finish it with some of these flaked almonds.
So in the restaurant, Lisa, are you in charge of everything that goes in terms of artistic license, or do you let your chefs come up with dishes? And
we work on
that work?
things together as flavour things, and we look and see, because our menus at Northcote change quite a bit. So our lunch menu changes like every six to 7 weeks, and because we have a lot of quite a big following for lunch. And then our tasting menu changes every 10 weeks. And that's seasonal, so we work with seasons, and you can see that, you know, the best thing in season, you have to do little with it to pull the flavour out of it. So we're thinking all the time. So with the lunch dishes, we'll sit around the table and we'll go, right, okay, we're going to use this ingredient and this ingredient, and 9 times out of 10 when we sat down we said we're using this, this and this, by the time you've put the dish through development it's completely different. But that's the joy about food, that's the joy about kind of flavours and stuff. So I'll finish it with a little bit of coriander on the top. And again, you know, for me, I think, you know, dishes do look elegant and stuff like that, but they've got to be packed full of flavour. They want to taste good.
We're saying that you've got to get that line between it not being too pretentious and it being completely tasty. And I think Lisa's food is that, because I've been eating it behind the scenes. It's excellent. You're going to get to try it and you will think the same too. But also, if you're at home, I've been reminded that you actually could win some of this amazing salt. So if you ask good questions, we will choose you to win the salt. So get typing.
Are we in charge of that?
We could be in charge.
Oh, amazing.
Yes.
I'll take that. Hey, it's good. I've got some at home. It's really good.
But if you're in the room, I think you will get some too. But, yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad, to be honest with you. I think every cheap cut is a little bit more expensive nowadays. So even a pork belly can come quite, quite pricey, but it's definitely, one of those cheaper ones that you can get. Probably depending on where you're working at, really, about £8, £9 a kilo, that kind of thing, and then get them to, take the bones out and stuff, or you can cook it with the bones in. But I think it's a real kind of like joy to eat. I think lamb belly's got such a lovely flavour, and to cook it really slow really brings the characteristics out quite nicely on it. I'm going to see it. Oh, thank you.
And we've also been asked if the Kalahari salt would be good to brine Christmas turkey, because turkey is notoriously dry. So this is actually excellent potentially for people at Christmas.
We do that. We brine our turkeys. We brine the legs and the crate. You can brine them as a whole thing, or you can brine them, take the legs off and do the breast. And again, they'll take probably about maybe 3 to 4 hours, but it depends on the size of your turkey. If you're working like a chicken size, upwards, probably 2.5, and then the larger you get would be in a little bit longer. But it is, it does tenderise things and it gives a real flavour to it. So you can imagine tearing up some sage and put a little bit of lemon in there, and real kind of, Himalayan salt would be great for that as well. The 2 rock salts, because that's kind of what the rock is, you've got to kind of grind it down to pull the characteristics out, or brine it like we've seen. So yeah, you could do, and then just cook them really slowly.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Would ricotta work instead of feta, or best to use creme fraiche?
Yes, it would. You can use creme fraiche, you can use ricotta, you can use a sheep's curd, you can put burrata in it. Anything that'll break down, you can use that into it. But again, if something's a little bit firmer with the recipe, you might have to add a little bit more liquid just to make it emulsify a little bit more. But you can put pretty much anything in it. You could do it with blue cheese if you wanted to. If you're a fan of blue cheese, make a dressing. If you want it as more as a dressing than a puree, you just put a little bit more liquid in it and bring it down. Adding a bit of honey or sweetness into it's quite nice. Again, like we were saying, you can put your spin on it of what you want to do. So that is beautiful. The Harissa lamb belly with pomegranates, almonds and whipped feta.
Amazing. Let's give Lisa a round of applause. So if you want to come and have a look at this one, take some photos, and we're going to get set up for the next one, which is dessert, my favourite. Yeah, so Lisa, do you want to introduce the next dish for everybody?
Yeah, so we're going to do kind of a lovely roasted peach with Madeira and lime, and then we're going to put some salted sheep's milk ice cream, and then we've got like a little honeycomb twirl that we serve with it. And again, I think it's really important that we're using things that are in season, because they've got great flavours. So peaches are really prime at the minute and delicious, and baking them I think really pulls the flavour of the peach out, so you leave a little bit of bite to it, but putting it with like kind of that Madeira, we use like a dark brown sugar on there. They're really quite nice to use. And then the salted sheep's milk ice cream is kind of one of my favourites. It's one we've been doing for a while. I think it really shows off the good characteristics of the salt that we're using. We used to do it with the normal Maldon Salt, the flakes, but we found that it works really good with this one.
And is that because you're going to cook that one down?
That's it.
Why you're
Absolutely. Okay. So again, what we talked about is with the flakes, you can actually just, if you had a lovely vanilla ice cream, even just putting a few flakes on top is lovely. But this one, it's about kind of using the characteristics where you have to cook it or you grind it to get the flavour into it, because it is a rock salt. So within the ice cream, we basically use sheep's milk. So sheep's milk is kind of rich, it's got a little bit of acidity to it there. You've got milk powder, glucose powder, but you could use glucose if you wanted to. It's got salt in there, so there's a gram of salt to there. And basically what we do is we take the milks and you warm it Once you've warmed it, we mix together the, we call it ice cream stabilizer. And because there's kind of not much fat within the sorbets and the milks and stuff like that, stabilizer really kind of brings it together. We use like kind of a Stab 2000, but there's loads of different stabilizers that are out there.
And do you find that, because when I'm making recipes at home compared to in the kitchen, I won't use stabilizers or anything because I don't have it.
No.
And I find that because it's a small batch for me at home, it's actually okay.
Yes, it is, yeah. I mean, we're making our ice creams and we make batches of them and then we churn them fresh every day. That's it, yeah, or Paco Jet and something like that. And when you kind of got it in the freezer and you're repacoing it, you want something that doesn't split when it gets repacoed. So that's kind of why we put the stabilizer in it. It's got milk powder in there again. So with a recipe, it's basically you put your milks into your pan and you warm it. And then in another little bowl, you put your glucose powder. If you were going to use liquid glucose, put that into your milk. Okay. Then you've got milk powder, and you mix all your dry ingredients together. And then basically once it's warm, you whisk it in. Okay, whisk it in, and must whisk continuously, so you don't want any lumps or anything there. You want it to really combine into the liquid. And then we put the salt in last minute, and I think the salt really does change it. It's one of those at first you're like, oh, what is this, because it's so creamy, but the salt just really brings the characteristics of the sheep's milk out. Once it's cold, you can churn it. You know, use it in a packagette, you can use in a cappuccino, ice cream machine, you can use kind of anything you want. So what we've done is we've made the mix, because obviously the mix needs to be completely cooled before it goes into the ice cream machine. So we've got some already churned there. So to go with it, we're going to do the peaches. So we've got some lovely ripe peaches, and I encourage people to go around the supermarket to see peaches, right?
I think it's actually very hard to get a good peach though.
It is.
Especially this year, I've found.
That's it,
and
I
only
think
get good peaches from like speciality places.
Yeah, the kind of top ends, especially the ripe ones. And the ripe ones are really important. That you know, when you're trying to cook something, if it's not ripe when you're cooking it, it would be hard to take the skin off it and really hard to get the stone out of it. And also, its flavours don't come out as much. So it's really important to use ripe fruit with whatever you're doing.
Can you use nectarines if you
don't
have peaches?
You can use nectarines, any type of peach. You do it with pineapples, really nice as well. You know, use the same kind of technique with the same ingredients. You'd just take the peels off the pineapple, cut the core out and put it in. It's nice kind of getting into that winter time using something like that. So with your peaches, just a little knife and take them in half, obviously turn it so it kind of pops out like that. Okay, a little technique, a little tip. So a lot of people try and get hold of the stone and pull it, and if it's not ripe it rips half of the peach out and stuff. A good old fashioned Parisienne scoop, just kind of put it round your stone like that and it comes straight out. But then obviously it doesn't, you know, because good that.
I will always roast mine and then take the seed out because I find
and sometimes, but if they're really kind of ripe and juicy, sometimes the stone sticks to them a little bit because you've got that kind of almost like a pith that's round it. So if we're doing it in a restaurant, we always take them out to make sure that we don't get any hassle once they're cooked, because we want to, you know, keep them all intact to the same shape. So again, you just kind of twist it and then just cup it a little bit like that on the side, and then it's popped out.
Amazing.
So with that, we've got a little bit of lime. So again, with limes and stuff like that, again, I think, you know, another technique is someone just take the lime out of the fridge, cut it in half, and then try to squeeze as much juice out as possible. Little tips: 30 seconds in a microwave or something like that kind of bulls the juices. Other thing is just put it onto a chopping board, onto a surface, give it a roll, and what you're doing is you're starting to massage it. You're massaging it so you get as much juice out as possible. To be honest with you, even for doing a gin and tonic, I'd do that as well. So, you know, that's little bits. Right, don't be afraid with it. And now again, you can put anything you want. You can change the citrus, you don't have to put his citrus on it. You know, squeeze it in there, make sure you're covering it over. And then basically what we've got is some brown sugar. You can just pop it on or you can dissolve it in. And then just some Madeira in there as well, and just bang it all on top. And then we put them in about 170, 180 in the oven, and what they do is just bake in all that ingredients, and the liquid starts to reduce down, the peach liquid comes out, and then the good way to tell is the skin will start releasing. And when they come out, you give them a couple of minutes and you can just release the skin off them, just leave them to go really cold. Great dishes just to let it go cold, use it with the ice creams, a real kind of contrast with the peach. So again, we just pop them in an oven. I've got them on a 180 here. I'll pop once they're ready. I'll take them out and show you. You know, if you wanted to
use brown sugar in there.
Yeah, there's brown sugar in there, but you can use light sugar, you use caster sugar, you can put maple on them, you can use honey on them. You can make it, turn it into a puree after and blend it up. There's endless amounts of things that you can do to kind of make it really, really delicious. Okay. So, we've got a couple of other elements that are going with there. So we've got our ice cream churned. And we've got our peaches in. You see the honeycomb on there. So what we've got is kind of like a honeycomb twirl, really. So it's like icing sugar, a little bit of honey, a little bit of plain flour, and it's these moulds. Okay, so you can see like kind of like the honey-shaped mould. And I think
where can you get those moulds from?
Internet. Amazon does loads of things. Amazon's amazing.
And you can get the salts on Amazon as well.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way.
Yeah, the salts are on Amazon.
Yes.
It's amazing. You can pretty much put anything in there and it'll come up with something. You know.
Because these are really handy, especially for twirls, because
yeah, they are. Yeah,
they break easily.
You know, and there's just great different moulds that you can get. So on the Amazon is where you buy it.
On the Amazon.
On the Amazon. Or I think Chocolate Works, Home Factory, stuff
Chocolate
like that.
Works
Any
is great.
kind of like quite a lot of the chef equipment and stuff. They have lots of moulds now, and people are getting them. So there's different things you can get, which will kind of finishes off. I think also when you're creating desserts and stuff like that, ultimately you think this is quite simple really, because it's almost like flavours of a Melba. So like peach Melba with raspberries and peach and vanilla ice cream. We've just changed it up a bit. We've put sheep's milk ice cream on. We do a lovely raspberry sauce, and then we've obviously got the twirl, but you're always thinking about kind of like the textures. Even like some of the salt after in a grinder, just twisted on the top to really bring it through and stuff like that. So the texture is kind of the element of the crunch that's in there. I've got some done, but I'm going to show you. So basically you mix the ingredients together, and you want to mix them with a whisk to make sure that they're all kind of combined together. You don't want any lumps or anything in there.
And then do you find, I don't know about you, I find summer very easy to create lots of different desserts because we've got so much fruit around. But then I do struggle when I don't work in restaurants now. Okay, I've given up for a bit. I will go back, but I've given up for now. That I would find wintertime so difficult because it would drag on and I'd have nothing left seasonally, and I would struggle.
It is. I think it is a struggle, and I think some good ways sometimes is to turn to maybe classic dishes or warming flavours, using alcohol in things a little bit more, nuts.
So you could make the sheep's milk ice cream in winter.
Sheep's milk ice cream, yeah, it's great with chocolate. Smoked hazelnuts and stuff. We did a dessert where we had vanilla chocolate with or any kind of chocolate mousse with smoked nuts and the salted sheep's milk ice cream. That's where the sheep's milk ice cream kind of came from. We did like a cigar, which was a chocolate shell. We had like a salted caramel in the middle, smoked nuts. Alternated with this kind of nice rich decadent chocolate mousse, and then the lovely salted sheep's milk ice cream, and we used to make it with the original one, and then serve a little flakes on the top of it, which
I was
was
saying
really
to
fun.
Lisa that most of my dessert recipes are weighed to Maldon Salt flakes, because I know exactly how, like the strength of it and how it works. But now I'm excited to give this a go and see the difference in the recipe.
That's it, yeah, and I think it keeps you kind of on the toes when you've got different things, but when you are familiar with something. And you can taste quite a difference between this one. Yeah, it's massive, isn't it, when we were trying the Himalayan, and I think that's why, we encourage people to just take a little bit of it, taste it, because you'll start getting your brain ticking, thinking, actually, I could use this in something else. You think about the classic margarita and stuff like that, use the salt, make a margarita sorbet and put salt in it, and, there's all sorts of different things that you can do with it, which I think is really lovely. Lime in a different way. You think about all the stuff, tequila. Not that I like booze or anything, but there's endless things that you can do with it when it gets to you.
Yeah,
and people just think it's salt. It's a main element and ingredient that we use in everyday cooking. You use it at home. We use it in our workplace. It's important because it brings out flavour ingredients. So I'm going to pop these in the oven. Use about 170, 180, and they don't take too long. And what happens is you just want them nice and golden. Okay. So I'm going to pop them in.
And salt in dessert is very important, in my opinion. It often gets ignored, but actually I think it adds so much more.
Do you use it quite a bit then?
I use it in everything. Every dessert recipe has got salt in it. And Terry, who's a dessert chef, was actually one of the people who taught me to use salt in dessert.
Oh, why are you hiding?
My mentor, my ice cream mentor's in the room. But you know, it's so important. And Terry's always actually a massive advocate for Maldon and everything. So when you taste her ice creams, they're like, you know.
I think it really gets your taste buds going, does salt, doesn't it? You kind of salivate through it. And I think, you know, adding it to an ingredient really helps pull the ingredient through, just salt. Yeah. So before they come out, basically we've got some here. So they're like little kind of, you know, the honeycomb little twirls that we've got there. There's a little bit of a raspberry, we call it a soup on there. So it's raspberries, Madeira, a little bit of honey, and just blend it up and make this lovely kind of sauce soup with it. Again, you want ripe raspberries. If you're doing the recipe at home and it's a little bit acidic, it could just be the variety. So fruit is different, you know, anything's different, what you get. Depends what time of year you use it. So sometimes the recipes might need a little bit more sweetness, might a little bit more savouriness, like salt to bring the flavour out a little bit more. And I think when we're doing recipes, it's something that you're really aware of. You get a younger one that says, "Oh, I follow the recipe to a T," but it's like sometimes it might be a little bit riper, which means that it doesn't need as much sugar, or it needs a little bit more salt to pull it because it's something that's not got a massive kind of flavour, but it's there as a back. You know, it's. I think it's sometimes we think as pastry and stuff, we just think that's it, there's a recipe, it's given, it works. It does work, it is a formula, but you rely on the flavour of these being the same all the time, and that's why, for me, sourcing your ingredient is really important. So, got here. We've got the peaches that are lovely there. And basically when they came out, I let them cool slightly, and then I just pulled the skin off them and kind of mixed them around in that lovely
and this
lovely
is
glaze
a cold
that was
dish
there.
that you
Yeah,
serve.
this is super cold, super cold. So we got a little bit of basil, and we've got some herbs. So we've made it because we want it really cold, and a little bit of soup here. So the soup is what I said, you know, we put raspberries in here, a little bit of sugar or honey, put some Madeira in there, and then you just blend it up, really get the flavours. So we're using the alcohol in this one to kind of bring the raspberry flavour out, and then you've got kind of like this lovely roasted peach there. Just watching them, see the colouring up quite nicely there. So we've got our
Bowl
peach.
for that.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
So again, it's pretty much peach. I think with this one, it's just really kind of like very flavoursome. Just put a good amount of like kind of soup in there. And we've got these lovely kind of glazed up peach. So you can see on there, can you see how glazy they are? Yeah, and if you slide a little knife into them, you've still got a little bit of bite to them, but they're really nice and kind of sticky on there.
And is this on the dessert menu at the moment?
Oh yeah, we've got something similar to it, yeah, something similar to it. So with these, we just kind of break one off, just to pop it on the side there. So when we're putting the ice cream on, again, we obviously they're cold. Yeah, if you wanted to do that hot-warm combination, it's really good, but to serve it quite quickly. And then we've got the ice cream in it. So we churned it beforehand. It's really nice.
Because I actually found it very hard to source sheep's milk.
Yeah.
Have you got any recommendations for people at home to get sheep's milk? And what is the difference between using sheep's milk and cow's milk?
Yeah, so you could use a cow's milk, but you want like a whole milk. It's got a little bit more kind of fattiness in it, and I think, you know, the sheep's do, but the sheep's is quite acidic as well, so you might have to play with the sugar a little bit. You can use goat's milk, you can use a really good cow's milk, you can use sheep's milk. You can use lots of different things, you know, like even like a really good buffalo milk or something like that's really good, you know. It's there's lots of different things you can do, and then basically you just want a really nice kind of wash here on that. So a good spoon of the ice cream on like that.
And when you have this ready for service, how many days does it stay Goodwin-Allen Ravneet?
Each day's good, but we tend to use, if we're churning for one service, we'll churn enough. And then if it's something like milk that hasn't got eggs in it, you can generally kind of just like heat it and bring it back. But we use packle jets quite a bit as well, because then you're just churning it and you're not heating it up. So whenever you're heating it, you're obviously kind of deteriorating the flavour as you would really. So again, you know, nice, and we have lots of kind of like flowers and stuff in the garden at Northcote, so we tend to use a few kind of decorative with them there.
Do you grow your own micro herbs there, or?
Yeah, we have like a cultivator, and
Okay.
we get some. Equally, we have a place in Chester that does really good herbs as well. And then we just finish it with like kind of the honey to oil on there.
That is beautiful. Let's give Lisa a round of applause.
Thank you.
That is so beautiful.